The CX-5 and the Outback are rolling into 2026 like two cousins who swear they're nothing alike, but somehow end up fighting for the same driveway. Mazda's chasing that premium vibe again, Subaru's doubling down on rugged practicality, and buyers are trying to figure out which one won't have them saying, "Damn, should have picked the other." Hey guys, it's Scott from CarlandTV, and we're diving straight into this matchup because both of these SUVs leveled up in ways people weren't ready for. One of these two is the smarter buy, and skipping it might sting later. But first, do me a quick favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. It ain't required, but those clicks keep this thing rolling and make it easier for me to keep dropping solid car content straight to your screen. Now let's get back into it. What's actually new in 2026? Kicking this off by getting clear on what actually changed for 2026 on both of these, because a lot of brands love to slap all new on a mild refresh. Mazda really did pull the CX-5 apart and rebuild it. The third-gen CX-5 is longer and wider, with the wheelbase stretched by about 4.5 inches, which is what gives it noticeably better rear legroom and a longer cargo floor compared to the old one. Infotainment got a full reboot too, with an available 1.5-plus-inch touchscreen and a big bump in standard safety tech baked in from the factory. Subaru did not sit still either. The 2026 Outback is a full redesign on the same basic footprint, but taller by about 1.4 inches and way boxier. So it reads more like a two-row SUV than the old wagon shape. That extra height translates into more headroom and a couple of extra cubes of cargo space behind the rear seats. Inside, Subaru dropped in a new 12.1-inch center screen, gave you a 12.3-inch digital cluster, and brought back real physical HVAC buttons, which a lot of owners were begging for. EyeSight got upgraded hardware and tuning, and pricing jumped hard, with the old base trim gone and the premium now starting mid-30 seconds in dollars. So, in plain terms, both of these are legit next versions, not lazy facelifts. The CX-5 leans into space, tech, and that mini luxury vibe, while the Outback leans into taller, boxier, more practical SUV energy with upgraded safety and a steeper price of entry. Powertrain and real-world performance. On the powertrain side, these two brands took very different routes. Mazda is rolling the 2026 CX-5 out with a 2.5-liter e-Skyactiv G 4-cylinder that uses a 48-volt mild hybrid system, rated around 190 metric horsepower and 252 Nm of torque, tied to a 6-speed automatic. That setup is basically an evolution of the current CX-5's 2.5, which in the 2025 US car makes 187 horsepower in non-turbo form and up to 256 horsepower with the turbo and premium gas, all with standard all-wheel drive and the same 6-speed. So, power delivery is familiar, just a little smoother and more efficient with the mild hybrid assist helping with low RPM fill and stop-and-go transitions. Subaru kept it simple on the 2026 Outback. You still get a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter flat-4 at about 180 horsepower as the base engine, or a 2.4-liter turbo flat-4 at 260 horsepower if you go XT or Wilderness. Both are bolted to a CVT with an 8-step simulated manual mode and standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, and ground clearance stays at about 8.7 inches, so it still clears ruts and snowbanks better than most crossovers in this size. Reviews of the new gen are pretty consistent. The 2.5 gets the job done, but feels strained when you push it in a heavier, taller body. The 2.4 turbo finally wakes the Outback up, but you can feel the CVT flaring and the boost coming on in a less clean way than a traditional geared automatic. Out on real roads, the CX-5 is still the sharper tool. Steering is heavier and more precise, body roll is better controlled, and the 6-speed automatic gives more natural shifts, so it feels closer to a hot hatch than a soft crossover, no cap. The Outback counters with way better comfort on broken pavement, plus that extra clearance and X-mode logic that can actually bail you out on muddy campsites or snowy driveways. Fuel economy tilts slightly Subaru's way on the base engines, with recent Outback numbers around 26 miles per gallon in the city and 32 miles per gallon on the highway, while the CX-5 non-turbo sits closer to 26 and 30 miles per gallon, respectively. The turbo Outback and turbo CX-5 both step fuel use up into the low 20 seconds combined, so if you want power, you pay at the pump on either side. Interior tech, comfort, and daily usability. When you sit in these two, they give off totally different energy. The CX-5 keeps chasing that baby luxury vibe, So Mazda went cleaner and more minimal for this next version. Big center screen, slimmer climate panel, fewer random buttons, and materials that feel closer to an entry-level Audi than a mainstream Japanese SUV. That lines up with what Mazda has already been doing in the CX-70 and CX-90, with soft touch across the dash, nicer stitching patterns, and legit switchgear instead of cheap plastic. Seating position is a little lower and more car-like, which I actually like for daily driving because it feels natural getting in and out, especially in parking garages or tight suburban driveways. The Outback sticks to the "I live in my car" lifestyle. Subaru is locked in on practicality, so you get big windows, thin pillars, and a higher, more upright driving position that makes it easier to see over traffic and spot pedestrians or cyclists. The center screen on the newer Outbacks is already an 11.6-inch vertical unit with hard keys around it, and early info on the next redesign points to a larger, sharper version of that with updated Starlink software and a fully digital gauge cluster. Subaru has also been slowly dialing back glossy piano black trim after owner complaints about scratches and smudges, which is a small thing on paper but huge in real-world ownership. On daily usability, the Outback still wins the "I haul stuff" contest. The cargo floor is longer, the roofline is squared off, and the load-in height is easier when you are throwing in strollers, dog crates, or camping gear. The CX-5 gives you enough room for a small family, but it leans more toward comfort and style than max cargo. So, if your life looks like Costco runs and road trips, the Subaru is useful. If it is mostly commuting, kids, and city errands, the Mazda is pleasant. Safety, all-wheel drive capability, and rugged performance. Safety and rough road stuff are where these two really separate their personalities. Subaru has built the Outback's whole reputation on this. Recent Outbacks keep pulling in IIHS top safety pick plus ratings when equipped with the right headlights, thanks to the Subaru Global Platform, strong, small overlap crash performance, and the EyeSight system that runs stereo cameras watching the road ahead. Subaru pairs that with standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, about 8.7 inches of ground clearance, and X mode that tweaks the throttle, transmission, and traction control so it can crawl through snow, mud, or light off-road without you babysitting it the whole time. If Subaru keeps that formula for 2026 and just tightens up the structure and software as they have been, it stays one of the safer, more confident picks for bad weather and rough roads. Mazda comes at safety from a different angle. The current CX-5 is also an IIHS top safety pick plus, with strong scores in front, side, and roof strength tests when you spec the good headlights, and Mazda has been quietly loading these things with Active Sense gear, like adaptive cruise, lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, and blind spot monitoring on most trims. Their Active all-wheel drive is more about predicting slip than reacting to it, using wheel speed, steering, outside temperature, and other inputs to move torque before you actually spin. It is not meant to be an off-road toy, but for wet highways, gravel backroads, and winter commuting, it feels planted and pretty confidence-inspiring. So if your life is snow states, unpaved driveways, and trailhead parking lots, the Outback's ground clearance and X mode are the safer bet. If you mostly live on pavement and just want strong crash scores and clean stability in bad weather, the CX-5 covers that without feeling like a lifted wagon. Long-term reliability and ownership costs. When you start talking long-term, this is where a lot of people either save a ton of money or get cooked slowly on repairs. Mazda's in a good spot here. Consumer Reports has had the CX-5 near the top of the compact SUV reliability charts for years, with above-average scores on engine, transmission, in-car electronics, and overall dependability. Same story from outfits like CarEdge that track real-world repair cost data, where Mazdas usually sit below the segment average on lifetime maintenance. That is why you see so many CX-5 seconds getting recommended as safe bets to keep past 150,000 miles as long as you do basic maintenance and do not ignore fluids. Subaru sits a little more in the middle. The brand's overall reliability is decent, but the details matter. Older Outbacks had well-known issues in certain years with CVT concerns, infotainment glitches, and some electrical annoyances, even though the engines themselves are generally solid. The newer platforms have been better, but you still want to be picky about model year and keep up with fluid changes on that CVT if you plan to run the thing deep into six-figure mileage. The upside is that Outback owners tend to hang on to their cars and drive them hard, which says something about real-world trust, but it also means you are not getting a never-think-about-it ownership experience. On resale, both of these are strong, and that is a good problem to have. Subaru has crazy brand loyalty, and Outbacks hold value really well because people shopping for used cars know exactly what they are getting. Mazda is playing the slow game. As the brand keeps pushing more premium interiors and cleaner design, used CX-5 seconds are getting treated less like cheap beaters and more like budget luxury. So, resale is climbing. If you want the safer bet on long-term reliability with fewer known problem spots, the CX-5 gets the edge. If you care more about outdoor lifestyle and resale strength tied to that image, the Outback still hits hard. So, which one you'll regret skipping? When you stack everything we just went through, a pattern shows up pretty quickly. The CX-5 is tuned for people who live on pavement, care about how a car drives, and do not want to babysit it once the new car smell is gone. You are getting tighter steering, a normal automatic, strong reliability history, and an interior that punches above its badge. For most American buyers who are commuting, hauling kids, hitting Target and Costco, that formula just makes life easier. If you skip it without at least driving one, that is where the regret creeps in later. The Outback still makes a ton of sense if your lifestyle really matches what Subaru builds it for. Snow states, gravel roads, trailheads, dog hair everywhere, gear in the back. That is Outback territory. The ground clearance, X mode, visibility, and long cargo area are all real advantages. Folks who actually use those strengths tend to run these cars into the ground and are happy doing it, but you pay in a softer drive, a CVT that some people never fully like, and reliability that is good but not Mazda level on the data I have seen. So, here is how I would call it. If you mostly live your life on normal roads and just need something that feels solid, drives clean, and will not stress you out long term, the 2026 CX-5 is the one you will regret skipping, no cap. If your week genuinely includes dirt, snow, cabins, and you use your car like a tool, then passing on the 2026 Outback would be the mistake.